You're looking live at one of the biggest problems facing Detroit, blight. But by the time this program is over, this house will no longer be part of the problem.
This house is just moments away from being torn down to the ground, making this neighborhood a whole lot safer and even more attractive to the neighbors who call it home. And you are going to watch it all unfold live.
So please stay with us for a special WXYZ and Detroit 2020 event, Busting Blight, and it begins right now. And good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Stephen Clark.
And I'm Carolyn Clifford. And as you can see right behind us, these Detroit contractors are ready to take this house on Penrod Street down to the ground. These neighbors are gathered around. They can't wait for this house to be gone. Yeah, it is an eyesore.
It is. That's Big Mike Farrow, by the way, of Farrow Equipment there sitting in the front seat. And he's going to tear this thing to the ground. This is Penrod Street. We're just kind of west and south of Chicago. The neighbors have all gathered around this neighborhood. This is like a party going on. And the reason why is they are happy to see this go. They have been asking for this thing to be taken down. They have been begging, they've been calling, and so tonight they're going to finally see it happen.
In fact, they've said they haven't even seen a burned out house in this neighborhood since they've been here for more than 30 years, many of them. Now, the mayor, when he took office, he said over the 4 years in office, he would tear down maybe 10,000 homes in the city of Detroit. But tonight, it's all about this one house right here on Penrod Street.
Yeah, so over the next half hour here, we're going to tell you more about this particular house. We're going to tell you about this neighborhood we're in. We're also going to tell you about the worst blight offenders in the city of Detroit. We are going to name names, and of course, we're going to have live coverage of this demolition, this house coming down.
Absolutely. But first, we want to tell you a little bit about this particular neighborhood. Like we said, some of these neighbors have been here 35 years, 31 years, 23 years, and they want to stay in this neighborhood because this is home to them. That's why they're so happy that this house and another house down the street will soon be coming down.
But the problem is they kept such good care of this neighborhood, but when the blight kind of moved in, they suddenly felt themselves, well, kind of trapped. Penrod Street has been home to Jacqueline Shack and Betty Simmons for 20 years. They say it's been a great place to live.
It was, and it still is. The blight don't do no good. That's make me not want to come home.
Jacqueline lives right next door to the house that's about to be torn down.
To look at it is saddening.
The blighted houses have lowered the value of her property, but she's more concerned about the danger the house poses.
Anything, a dead body or anything all up in there.
And there was the fire.
My house took damage when the fire caught up. When the house caught on fire.
Betty lives a couple doors down. There's another house on the block that she says needs to go.
They've been having girls up in there and hear screaming, and gunshots was down there about 2 weeks ago.
Last week we told the ladies the house was coming down.
Girl, I'm just so happy. Yes, it's got to go. That'd be great.
The neighbors are talking about turning the lot into a green space. They're just waiting for the bulldozers to do their job.
Give us a little help, we'll do the rest.
But while this house coming down is a celebration for a whole bunch of people in this neighborhood, for some other people it's kind of bittersweet.
Absolutely. This house is just one of 40,000 in the city of Detroit that are sitting empty right now. Each has its own story, and some are quite heartbreaking. Take a look. It's hard to believe looking at it now, but in 1939, this home was an example of middle-class luxury. It was one of the first houses on the block. Tangi Washington's family lived here from 1979 to 2009. They bought it from a pipe fitter and a secretary at nearby Cody High School.
It was a family house. My mother raised her 4 children there, as well as 100+ foster children there.
Tangi was one of those foster children. This house was her home from the time she was 12 to the time she was 29.
This is where I learned what a family was. This is where I came into womanhood.
The house had 5 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms.
That was my bedroom right there.
It was always filled with children and with laughter.
It was so much love, just love in general.
But in 2009, things changed for this family and many others.
My mom had become ill, and we were unable to continue paying the mortgages on it, so we lost it.
Since then, financial institutions have bought and sold the home several times. It was rented for a while, and neighbors say there have been squatters. At one point, it was boarded up. Then there was the fire, and hope of salvaging the home was gone.
My mom worked so hard to help so many people and build so many lives, and then now to see this house in this disarray, it makes it necessary imperative for it to be demolished.
And you know, Stephen, a lot of people in this neighborhood don't want to see that heartbreak here.
No, they're not going to see it tonight. It's a celebration. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Dave Bing joins us right now. I mean, this is a big moment for a neighborhood to see this kind of thing happen.
It is, and I want to thank not only the people in this community, but Channel 7 and 2020 for doing what you're doing, because, I mean, you're the guys that are telling the story for us, and we truly appreciate it.
So many people in this neighborhood have talked about being here for 30 years, 35 years. What are you going to do to keep them here and to keep this neighborhood alive, Mr. Mayor?
The kind of things that we're doing right now. We're getting rid of all of the blight in the neighborhood. This house has been burned out for a year and a half. They already told me there's another one down the street, so don't stop here. So when you clean it up and you do those kind of things, it brings pride back in the community.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Mayor, with no further ado, let's go ahead and turn around. This is Big Mike in the cab here.
Tell them to
Mike.
tear it down.
All right, Mike.
Tear this house down. Now, he's going to tell you the strategy for Mike is he's going to pull the whole front of the house down first. That chimney that stands up, he wants to make sure it comes this way, not towards the house next door. Mr. Mayor, what do you think looking at that, huh?
Well, I'll tell you, this is not the first one I've seen, and it's not going to be the last one I've seen. We got a lot of homes like this in Detroit that need to come down. But we also got to think about not just tearing down and demolishing. We got to start rebuilding also.
Mr. Mayor, the lady who lives in this house right here, right next door to this house being torn down, she wants her daughter to come home from college from Ohio to move into this house, and that's what Detroit is about. You want young people to come back home, live here, and get jobs here.
Exactly. We are just over the years losing way too much of our young talent. They go away to school and they don't come back, but we need them to come back, but we've got to give them a reason to come back.
Absolutely. We're going to turn you around a little bit and continue talking to you, Mr. Mayor. There's so much hope in this neighborhood. A lot of people, as I said, have been here for a long time. They want their children to come back to this neighborhood as well, just like I said for this lady right behind us. You met her grandson, who's only 9. Really excited about Detroit and what's happening.
Yeah, you know, we're going through a transitional period right now, and we've got to reclaim our city. The transformation that we're going through is now becoming very infectious across the whole city. So we've got people across the city that are getting involved, getting engaged, and says we're going to help out. We need volunteers.
Now, Mr. Mayor, there are a lot of people watching this right now who live in the city of Detroit, and they have on their street 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these houses just like that, and they're saying, hey, I want mine torn down. What do they do?
Well, they should call the office. Carla Henderson is the person that's leading this up for the city of Detroit. But I want to be honest with people. There's some things that we're not going to be able to do right away. So we've got a schedule of homes that are going to come down in specific parts of the city. So we're going to stick to our plan. We already tore down over 3,000 last year. We'll reach that goal again this year. But we just tipped the tip of the iceberg. So it's a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely. The corner house, I know some of the neighbors told me, is quite dangerous. You know, kids have been running in and out, police have been in and out, there have been shootings, but a little girl right across the street said, when you tear this house down, can you ask Mr. Mayor, can we have a playground in our neighborhood? I know this is going to be a garden, but what do you say to a kid like that?
Well, it's kind of hard when a young child comes up to you that wants that kind of support. It's hard to say no. So we are going to start out by tearing that other house down. Whether or not that park or whatever becomes a place for kids to go and play is another story. We've got to look at that.
We'll let her know that you're going to look at that for sure.
We're going to take a look right now. We're watching the demolition continue. And this was one of, just today alone, more than a dozen, almost 2 dozen houses in the city of Detroit today being torn down. And it's just a sight that the neighbors around here just are loving to see.
You know, we've got 300 homes in this neighborhood that are going to be torn down. We've already torn down about 75. By the end of September, the other 225 will come down. We're doing the same thing over on the east side. And we're trying to make sure that we tear homes down that are around schools so the children that are going to school and from school feel comfortable, feel safe.
Well, Mayor Bing, we certainly appreciate you coming out here and being with us tonight and tearing down this house and planning to tear down another one on the corner.
Well, thank you so very much. We appreciate you and what you do for the city.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Coming up, our Dave Llewellyn reports on the people considered by the city to be the worst offenders of blight. He is going to name names.